I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and we're here to launch the One Book Westchester program, which is a very exciting new item that's going to engage everybody in Westchester County in reading some terrific works of fiction and nonfiction, things that we're going to enjoy greatly. We have with us here two of our authors, and they're both going to have a chance to share with you. We have Mary Calvi, who is the author of the book Dear George, Dear Mary. Has nothing to do with me, but it does have to do with the great George from this area, George Washington, and a story of history, but also a romance story. And Mary, of course, not only is an author, she's a prominent member of the media in her own right. She should, by all rights, be sitting here, not me. And, of course, she's also the First Lady of Yonkers. So, Mary, we're happy to have you here today. And we also have with us Eric Velazquez, who's also a resident of Westchester County. He is the author and illustrator of a number of different books that are going to be used for the younger readers in the group. We'll mention Octopus Stew in a little bit and give him a chance to share a little bit of his talent with all of us, which we'll have a chance to see over the course of the year. I'd like to just introduce some of the members of the One Book Committee who are here with us today. This is a group of individuals active in library services, active in a variety of different venues that have come together to launch this program, which is pretty ambitious when you consider the size and scope of Westchester County, that everybody that is engaged in this will be reading a single book depending on your age and grade level. But we owe a great debt of gratitude to Dawn Greenberg, who's the executive director of the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival. She'll be speaking next after I am, and she's a representative on this of One Book Committee. Dawn, thank you for your great leadership in all of this. A round of applause. And we also have with us here today Terry Kirshner, who's the executive director of the Westchester Library System. Terry? We have our host for this event, Z. Baird, who's the branch manager of the Crestwood Library. Z? She is clearly the most popular librarian in the area. Gina Bell is with us. She's the director of library services for Yonkers Public Schools. Gina? And I don't know, have we had anybody else from the committee come in yet that we should mention? Okay, very good. Help me out on the list.
Liz Bly is here.
Elizabeth Bly, teacher at the A&M Donner School in Ossining. And of course, Rosie Finizio, who is employed at the Westchester County Executive's Office. She does a fabulous job there, and she has been the proponent of this in our chambers and has done a great job getting us involved in it. Rosie? We're also very fortunate to have with us my good friend, and she is no stranger to this library nor to this section of Westchester County. She's New York State Senator from the 37th District. That doesn't mean anything, but she has a crescent of communities that start here in East Yonkers and goes all the way up to Bedford. So you figure out how to represent both Bronxville and Portchester, and then you can do her job. The outstanding Senator, Shelley Mayer. Shelley? I just want to highlight, Shelley is the chair of the Senate Education Committee, and the education area of public policy in New York State also includes libraries. So when the budget comes around, there's a little bit more money for libraries, either operating or capital projects. One of the people you can thank is the leadership of Shelley Mayer. So the real show here are the two authors, and Dawn, of course, is going to speak in a second. But this is an opportunity in Westchester County, and in my role as county executive now for almost 2 years, I have a chance to travel the full length and breadth of the county. And we are a very diverse county. You might pick up somewhere in this library one of John Cheever's novels, and when you read his novel, that's one vision of Westchester, that people, the horses are in the meadow, and we're all sipping white wine and so forth. This is the county that claims Rob and Laura Petrie as its home county from the Dick Van Dyke Show, the perfect suburbanites of the 60s. This is also the county that claims Don Draper from Mad Men as his home county when he got on the train in Ossining to go into Sterling Cooper in the city. and so many prominent people live here. But there's a diversity because we have in urban parts of the county, in Yonkers, in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, some of our smaller villages and hamlets, we have a population that's very diverse. We have people of color, we have African Americans and Latinos and Asian Americans, Muslims and folks from South Asia and Southeast Asia, all that make up this demographic mix of Westchester. So to try to engage that diversity and reading a book and sort of have a common platform of enjoyment of the written word is really a special effort. Dawn Greenberg, who's done marvelous work in Chappaqua, is in many ways the engine that has pulled this train. So Dawn, please share with us some of your thoughts about this great opportunity.
Okay, sure. I think we all in this room share the same vision, that's just to get our kids reading, whatever way it takes. Comic books, graphic novels, reading cereal boxes. We all know that reading is the key to everything in life, it's the key to success. To me, it's so important for empathy and to develop a worldview, and just it's a way to knit your family together as well. So what we try to do is pick a selection of books. One very important component of building a really strong reader is modeling. Kids need to see their parents reading, not just on their iPhones, guilty, but real books. So it was a lot of fun. We put a committee together from BOCES and WLS. There's such a wealth of talent in this county that we'll be having books to go through for years to come, trying to pick the next book. But we think we have 3 fabulous authors this time around. Mary's book is kind of iconic for the Revolutionary era in Yonkers. Eric is prolific and does beautiful, gorgeous work. I'm especially excited about a book he has coming out next year, of famous speeches. And Vera Heron and Donnie couldn't be here. She's our middle grade author. She lives in Hastings, and her book is about 2 orphan girls keeping a diary as they travel across India. A really poignant and beautiful book. A very hot middle grade book, actually. The trick also with us was to find books that would really engage these kids. And the way we're going to do that is have the various libraries do programming. Maybe we'll do Indian crafts, or we're going to do a diary making workshop at one of the bookstores. We'll do maybe an Indian progressive dinner one night. We might have music in the park to tie into your book, because there's a lot of music in your book. So this the responsibility to really make this sing will be on us and on the librarians and on the communities, and we really appreciate George buying into it. As you said, it was an ambitious effort. But we feel like Westchester, especially with your leadership, is a really special place, and we can all be knit together on any number of fronts. Sorry. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, thank you, Dawn. Let me also recognize Dr. Damia Harris-Madden, who is the head of our County Youth Bureau. And of course, she's the person who has the greatest interaction in county government with young people through the various urban and suburban and even a few little rural environments. So we're very happy that she's a part of this program. Damien, thank you for being with us. We also have Orrin Bishop, who is with us. Orrin, give us a wave. Wamrath's Bookstore. This is, I won't say he's part of a dying breed. He's part of a thriving breed of independent bookstore owners, and we know how hard Orrin and his colleagues work to try to provide the kind of personal attention for readers who live in a community and who come to the bookstore. And they actually come from more than just one community. They come from a wide swath of communities, and how important it is for us to have that type of retail presence in our midst. Everybody buys things online and big box stores, but the small bookstore is critical to our future. Orrin, thank you again for being with us today. So now we're going to hear the 2 authors, Mary and Eric. As Dawn mentioned, the 3rd author, Vera Hiranandani, has the young adult middle school novel, The Night Diary, which we have before us here, and she's kind enough to hold up the shirt as well with the book. But the book has more value than just that. And we're sorry she couldn't be with us, but at various events that are going to come up, you'll have a chance to meet her. She'll have a chance to talk about her work. But Mary's book, Dear George, Dear Mary, has really struck a chord with the community. And because there's a Yonkers, Westchester basis to the book, because it deals with names that we're familiar with in history, but you see them as real human beings. Most of us think of George Washington, the father of our country, standing as a statue, looking out boldly to an America that had not yet been born. We named our capital after him, and he's a god in marble. But this book humanizes him and brings him to a position where you read about it, and within the context of that era, you have a sense of who he is as a human being and who Mary Phillips is as well, and that real human emotions and real human dynamics happen between these people of history. So, Mary, thank you for your great work of authorship, and please share some of your thoughts tonight.
Sure. Well, thank you. I can't thank you enough. This is really such a thrill. I really greatly appreciate it. It was such a journey to be able to discover a forgotten story about George Washington. And really what it comes down to is that history lies hidden in every hometown, just waiting to be discovered. And for me, it was libraries that actually made it happen. Truthfully, if it weren't for libraries and the archivists who preserved the documents for centuries, this forgotten chapter in George Washington's life would never have been found. Romance, deception, intrigue. I nearly couldn't believe it. So I brought some of the documents. So like this one was in a library, hidden away. This letter of George Washington's was also hidden away in the library, as well as a document that was the potential suitors of Mary Phillips. Actually exists, and it has existed for a couple hundred years. And the interesting thing about this is all of the men on this list were also trying to move in on Mary Eliza Phillips, who was the richest single woman in colonial America at the time, and she lived right here in Westchester. Their story was just remarkable to be able to discover, and now to be able to share it with so many other people will really be exciting, because I think there's still much more to be discovered. And as a group, I think we may be able to make this happen, especially for Mary Phillips, who I believe was wronged in history, forgotten in history, and really deserves a voice at this time.
That's great, Mary. Thank you very much. It's hard to believe a bunch of guys chasing after a girl. Shocked, I'm shocked. Gambling in my establishment. Our other author who's with us today is Eric Velazquez, who's a resident of Hartsdale. And not only is he an author, and his work has been targeted to our younger readers, the elementary school, he is also an illustrator, so he's a double threat. And this book, Octopus Stew, which is before us here, is both written with a great degree of enthusiasm and whimsy, but also illustrated beautifully. And as we know, our children, and when we were children, the illustration brings the story to life and really helps bring in the kids to the joy of reading. So, Eric, please share with us a little bit of your experiences and how happy we are to have you in this program.
Well, first of all, it's just an honor and a thrill to be part of this important initiative. The idea that my work will be featured in the libraries and in different events, and will provide like windows and mirrors to children. That's all any artist would want with their work. My latest is Octopus Stew, which is simply the story of a boy, a grandmother, a dog, and a very feisty octopus that just won't stay put, doesn't know that he's supposed to be dinner for that night. So before this book was published, Schomburg, The Man Who Built the Library, speaking of libraries, was published, and it won a Walter Award and an International Latino Award. And it's the story of Arturo Schomburg, who collected many artifacts of just documenting the accomplishments of people of African descent to world history and world culture, and in so doing, basically became the father of African American history. And his work, all the artifacts can be found at the Schomburg Center in New York on 135th Street and Lenox Avenue. And coming up in February, I'm proud to announce, is Ruth Objects by Disney Publishing. This will be coming out in February, so I'm very proud about this book. So, turn it back over to you.
Eric, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. There are going to be a series of events and activities that are going to involve all three authors across the county over the course of the next year. And I'm sure that every library, every book club, through the school system and other venues, there are going to be opportunities for these books and these authors to be identified and the quality of their work to be seen. We just renovated a facility just for Mary's benefit in North White Plains.
So
It's
beautiful.
the Elijah Miller House, which dates back to colonial era, before the Revolution. It was owned by Elijah Miller, who fought on the side of the Patriots and was a part of the Battle of White Plains. Both he and his sons died in that war, and his wife, Ann Miller, maintained the property. And the property was owned by Westchester County, bought sometime in the early last century. Over the last number of years, it had fallen to disrepair. It was on the verge of collapse. We made a commitment when we came into public office to renovate it. A few bucks later, the place looks great. It has a separate building, courtesy of New York State financing. I want to thank Shelley and David Buchwald, who is the assemblyman who represents that area. They helped us with some state funds. We had some county funds in it, and I'm sure it'll be a venue for one of your upcoming books. And Eric, we'll get some kids in there too for you, so it'll be fun. So let's open it up to anybody in the media. Have any questions? I assume for the authors, not for me. For Dawn, on behalf of the organization, or to the authors. Any questions from the media that's with us? Answered every question, right?
If I can add one thing, we absolutely will have free books available for shelters, for nonprofits who might need them, for any kind of book deserts, if you will. We have a website, One Book Westchester. Yes. So reach out to us that way, or call one of the libraries and they can put you in touch with us. But we'll be happy. We have 30 signed books of Vera's here today that we'd love to send home with you all, especially if you're headed back to a library or to a nonprofit.
Very good. And I want to ask Senator Mayer to say a few words as well. Shelley?
It's a wonderful project. I'm so thrilled that you made this One Book Westchester happen. And being here in this beautiful library that, I went to the children's room as a child, and this has been a very special place in the Yonkers Public Library. And, the feeling of knowing we're in a book world, in a world where these fantastic authors are encouraging us to spend time with a book and to spend time learning. It's a very wonderful feeling to be here. I want to credit you, Michigan County Executive, and Dawn for making this happen. And I do want to know where we can buy your books, Mr. Velazquez, and I already have Mary Calvi's book, and I intend to buy more for my family. But buying the books as you encourage them is something to be useful to know.
Very good. And everybody who's here, we encourage you, take a picture, put it out on your social media, and circulate it around. Let's get the word about One Book Westchester out as far and wide as we can. So before I get lulled into doing a fireside chat like the president did, thank you all very much. Congratulations to the group. And let's go out there and read. Mary, thank you so much. Eric, thank you very much. Dawn?